Okay, guys, I want to take us through this whole this press release about these food stamps. I don't know if it's just food stamps or if it's the entire welfare program altogether, but right now, let's see what they're talking about.
Because of new work requirements and changes to exemptions. It's all part of President Trump's signature tax and spending plan passed last summer. Our Alex Brochet joins me now, along with Eric Mitchell, the president of the Alliance to End Hunger. Alex, I'll start with you.
Oh my, why don't we just get the blackest of the black to talk about some food stamps, right? Gotta be black people.
Break down what's changing overnight.
Well, Andrew, let's start with this work requirement.
Of course, because black people know about food stamps. Y'all gonna talk about food stamps tonight? We sure are. We're gonna do a news coverage on the food stamps. Well, make sure you bring in some black people, because if anybody know anything about food stamps, it's black people. And they sure enough caught themselves some.
80 hours per month work requirement for able-bodied individuals. Also, a part of that is now they're for individuals that are aged 8.
Wait a minute.
Joins me now, along with Eric Mitchell, the president of the Alliance to End Hunger. Alex, I'll start with you. Break down what's changing overnight.
Well, Andrew, let's start with this work requirement. A new 80 hours per month work requirement for able-bodied.
Let's stop right there. 80 hours a month. You know that there are people that work 80 hours a week in some situations, and you're complaining about 80 hours a month? You all that collect these food stamps, you're griping about 80 hours a month?
Individuals. Also, a part of that is now they're for individuals that are aged 18 to 64. Previously, the work requirement capped out at about 55. And for family members that take care of...
Now, let me say this. 64 is the new 45. Have you seen some of these 64-year-olds these days? Hold on, y'all. I need to take a bite of my scrumptious. All right, let's carry on.
Dependents, they used to have an exemption for dependents under the age of 18. Now that has shrunk, and it ends for dependents under the age of 14. We also saw exemptions removed for homeless individuals, veterans, and young adults who are in foster care. Additionally, this bill significantly restricts benefits to only apply to certain...
Like I said, 64 is the new 45. Why? Because of the innovations in medication and healthcare awareness and fitness and all of these things to help people as they age more gracefully. You know what I mean? Age gracefully as the years come on. And then not only that, but from the age of 15 to 18, that's the time when the children are in high school. And if they're doing it right, they're going to take care of all of their classes in their sophomore and junior year. So by the time they get to senior, they probably only have one class. And what are they doing? They're working the rest of the year. That's how that operates.
Lawful permanent residents here. It eliminates eligibility for others legally present in the United States. But as you mentioned, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that between 2025 and 2034, 1.1 million people will lose SNAP benefits. Another 1 million people, it estimates, could have those.
Do we understand that there's over 340 million people in the United States? Does everybody understand that? There's probably even more than that, because when was the census? They do the census every 10 years. So what was it? 2000, 2010? I haven't looked at the census lately, but I know last time I did check, there was 340 million people.
Benefits reduced because they are no longer eligible for exemptions.
And Eric, what do you make of all these changes made in that GOP mega bill?
Well, the GOP mega bill really, quite honestly, is a bill that is just really attacking some of the most vulnerable people in our country. As Alex mentioned, for folks who are going to be impacted by these changes are families with children under 18, older Americans up to age 65. And what these work requirements are going to do is basically make that population was a population that typically is the hardest to try to find steady employment, to now be burdened with trying to prove that they are working 20 hours a week just to be able to be fed. Not to mention, individuals who are dealing with homelessness as well as veterans. These are, again, we are talking about some of the people.
Let's go back to stable employment. Are you talking about the people who refuse to attend classes to learn how to conduct themselves in public? Is that who you're referring to? You referring to those knuckleheads that want to sit here and have the taxpayers pay for all of their livelihood while they're disrespectful to society? They get on a job and then they want to start talking crazy to their coworkers, want to start getting into fist fights and fighting customers. Are you talking about them? Forget them. Let them starve.
Who are dealing with the most, at times, unstable forms of employment. And so, this is a policy that we feel is unnecessary. There's already work requirements, used for SNAP benefits. And so by extending it and making it even harder, you're just increasing the burden on more Americans.
There's already work requirements, right? How's that played out? They just figured out a way to scam the system. That's why they've had to adjust it. I know what I'm talking about because I used to scam the system too. Sure did. Sure did. Many of us did. Till our eyes came open to what that system was about. Hold on, y'all. I gotta eat.
And so with that, Eric, what do you think the result here could be for those millions of Americans?
Well, it's not only going to just be those millions of Americans who, like Alex mentioned, the over a million people who will lose their benefits, and the additional million people who will see their benefits reduced, but it also puts a strain on the broader community. Food banks are already struggling across this country to try to make sure they have enough food on the shelves to be able to take care of those who are trying to put food on the table, as well as your local grocery markets and others who rely on.
So let me tell you. See, before many of these states legalized marijuana, people of color would be doing prison time. So the haves, they said, well, we want to smoke weed too. Let's just create laws so we don't go to prison. Same way with the opioids. See, it wasn't an issue when people of color were like, look, we got a drug problem. So what? Until their little, a certain population, until their children were dropping like flies and breaking into the house and stealing mom's silverware and all, then they're like, oh, we have an opioid epidemic, right? So a certain population, they said, well, why don't we just franchise out a bunch of restaurants to people of a certain population, and we'll just approve for you guys to use food stamps or, the EBT card. And that's how, so essentially, they're not competing fairly. They're not competing fairly. We're paying for your McDonald's. The money that McDonald's makes is them collecting taxes. The government is funding McDonald's. The government is funding Taco Bell. The government is funding, whatever type of fast food place that accepts EBT. Because a certain population, they love to tilt the laws into their favor. Food banks already get subsidies from the USDA. They already get it. They already get some sort of subsidy when they go to, distributors to provide for their food bank.
On individuals who are receiving SNAP benefits to kind of keep the economy moving forward. This is something that has it's going to be a trickle-down effect as it relates to the people who are going to be losing these benefits.
Eric, how are groups like yours helping to work and bridge that gap and maybe some of the confusion and challenges as millions stand to lose these benefits?
We're working with groups in states to talk about how these policy changes are going to impact them directly. I didn't mention the fact that this
basically crippling them. Oh, you poor black people, you poor people of color, you don't know what you're doing. You can't. They want you to work 80 hours a month. Man, they tripping. 80 hours a month, man. Why? Why would they want you to work 80 hours a month, man? You people of color, man, you can't do nothing. They know you stupid. They know you lazy. How dare they? Basically, that's how they've been working with the community, is by pumping people of color, black people, Hispanic people, whoever else, pumping their head full of this nonsense that you need food stamps. You must have them. You must have a subsidy. You must. No, don't get a skill. Don't go to trade school. Don't take a 6-month program for office management. Don't do that. Oh, no. You just sit down. You see what I'm saying?
Some of the policy changes that's in HR 1 is also going to put more burden on the states, where states are going to have to figure out how to close gaps in their own state budgets to cover what was once going to be covered by the federal government. And so many people are going to have to talk to.
Exactly. I don't know. Try having people work and get the taxes off of there if more people are working.
Their state legislatures as well as their governors to make sure that these are priorities in their state budgets. But we're also working with groups to understand what are some of the resources that you can have as relates to being able to make ends meet and be able to qualify for these programs. One thing we have to mention is that this is a program where it's serving over 40 million Americans. This is the largest nutrition program in the country.
Let me tell you something. That program has been abused. And let the chips fall where they may. Let the chips fall where they may. Get rid of that program. My position is this. The only people who should be receiving food stamps are elderly, disabled, severely disabled, I should say, because a lot of people try to claim some sort of disability, and veterans. That's it and that's all. That's my position.
So any changes to this is going to have a drastic impact on people. And so it's going to be up to us to really educate folks on what those impacts mean. And I really appreciate you guys, making this a topic for today.
And Alex, this could be a really difficult week for people. How do they even know if they're about to lose their benefits?
Well, that's part of the big confusion here. Number one, you're talking about, as Eric mentioned, a program that some 42 million Americans depend on. But it's not like, there's a website that you can go to and type in your name and your credentials and figure out whether or not you're still eligible. Listen.
That's not true. That's not true. All you got to do is go to your state, whatever the name of your food stamp program is. In the state of Arizona is the Department of Economic Security. Then you go to your legislature. Then read. It tells you what the changes are. It tells you when they're coming about. It tells you what the qualifications or disqualifications are. This man is not being truthful right here.
The reality is that in some states, those benefits are going to evaporate tomorrow when the clock strikes midnight for folks, especially for folks that can't prove their work history. But other states
can't prove your work history. Isn't that what everybody files taxes for? Isn't that you have to have a social security number or a worker, some sort of worker identification number. So what? Man, they just come up with a lot of hocus pocus for these food stamps.
Going to try to at least give a little bit more of a runway, a little bit more of a buffer before starting to kind of wean people off of these programs. But when we talk to a lot of,
they should have been weaned off years ago. Apparently, it didn't work with Clinton.
Food banks. That is their big concern. It is the uncertainty. It is the hodgepodgeness, if you will, of this taking effect, and they're hearing concern from a lot of people that are dependent on these programs.
Excellent point and good insight from you both, Eric Mitchell and Alex Brochet. Thank you.
Another episode of No, not a good point. Now, I want to show right here this comment from Segra13. This comment says, I don't know what it means by wean people off of these programs. You don't understand what that means? I think the more accurate description is the government they're trying to say choosing to let people starve. Let me make this clear before I wrap this video up, because I got to get back to my deliveries. Not you, nor me, nor anybody else in the United States of America has ever seen anyone starving. Never. The only time that you, myself, and anybody in media, your family members, the only time that you have ever seen anyone starve is in a criminal case. When some sicko takes a human being, a child or an elderly person, and starves them to death. But on an average, everyday condition, nobody in this entire country has ever seen anyone starving. Nobody. That's a fact. You've never seen a starving person in the United States of America. The only time anybody has ever come across a starving person is when a twisted, demented person kidnaps an individual, starves a child, starves an elderly person, or starves another human being intentionally. You've never seen a starving person other than that. Never. Not in this country. And this is what I'm talking about. You guys sit here and you make these excuses. I'm with God on this. If a man does not work, he shall not eat. 2 Thessalonians. So if you don't want to work, you're not going to eat. We should not bear the burden of the lazy. Period.